The entire world is genuinely an expression of the mind of the insecure white man. Everything that we have to deal with on this planet Earth is genuinely because some insecure white men said, I don't like the world being in a way that I can't control it because I'm insecure. I am going to craft a world that I can control so that I can feel my insecurities. That's why we live in hell. We are literally living in the mind of the insecure white man. That's why we live in hell. Like that, literally, that's why we are inside the mind of a person who has hell inside their brain, and we're living in it. Hello, 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 and welcome back to Bri Speaks podcast. I am your host, Bri Speaks, who created the 6 narcissistic social hierarchies of control that I talk about on this channel. The 6 narcissistic social hierarchies are patriarchy, capitalism, corporatism, racism, ableism, and religion. These are the 6 social structures, invisible, some not visible, but these are the 6 social structures that we were all indoctrinated into, we were all born into, that we all have to deconstruct in order to free our minds to be able to see the world for what it actually is and live our lives as freely as we can, as freely as we want to, and end all suffering. We can end all suffering in the world if we dismantle all 6 of these narcissistic social hierarchies. So what are we talking about today? I am going to stay on this patriarchy train because I am riding it with all of you, as there are so many of you who are still confused, apparently, about the patriarchy and how okay, I've gotten a lot of people who will basically say this is a crazy feminist from TikTok, especially a Black woman from TikTok who's been ingesting too much feminism content, which wasn't made for Black women, so she shouldn't even be listening to it, and she's left herself a good one, and she doesn't know how many of us are out here fighting for a good man, and she got one and basically threw him away, and that's y'all's problem. That's your problem, is you all are out here, one, still thinking that good men exist. My husband was a good man. Okay, so they do exist, but the percentage, y'all, you have been brainwashed. You've been lied to. You have been made to believe that there are plenty of good men out there. You just have to find them. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. There are a very, very small minority of pretty decent men out there who would be okay to procreate with. And I don't think almost any of them are good enough to marry and give the rest of your life to. That's my personal opinion. I don't feel like any man, and as I've been sitting here and thinking more and more and more on this, like, y'all, I do a lot of introspection. I think about why I feel the way I feel all the time, every day, all day. And so I'm thinking about how I don't want to be married. I don't want this romantic partnership. And so it made me do my research all the way back, which I've already done the research, but made me do some more research, some reaffirming research as to the construct of marriage and, where it came from and what it was for. And it wasn't even about romance for like the first God knows how long. It was, just the contract, just the purchasing of a woman, just the melding of families, of rich families with money. And then women everywhere and marriages everywhere made up stories to themselves saying, well, what would happen, if I actually love this person, or if this was this romantic fall in love story. And then they wrote all these stories of romance and love to make themselves feel better. Again, they were just stories to make themselves feel better. So yeah, so like I'm just like, I feel like I'm fighting with a lot of people in the comments about marriage, when marriage is not, it's a social construct that humans made up for the purpose of property recognition. So why is everyone sitting here acting like marriage or being tied to a person for the rest of your life is like, if you don't want that, then you're crazy? That concept of being with one person for your entire life is new in human history. Like, let's talk about monogamy in general. So if we take away the actual like social and legal construct of marriage that was created by the government and people's brains, if we talk about just like the biological mechanism of two human beings being together in an intimate relationship for a very long period of time, the way that it is set up in our world right now, where it's a man, a woman, and their children living in a house by themselves, disconnected from their communities, only going to see their community, like really not even having a community. What is our community? Our community is like going to work. I'm not calling like the vast, like I got a couple of people who I've met at work throughout my life who I consider friends outside of work, but for the most part, people you made at work are not your community. That's not a community. So and you go see your family every once in a while, but they're not, you have to build in time to go see your family. Whereas before in human history, like seeing your community was built into your life. It wasn't something you had to carve out time for. It was like, we have to go to the market, or even before we got to markets. When I think of humans, I like to think of us like literally before modern civilization. And I know people don't like to compare now to modern civilization because we feel like we've gone so far. We have so many more technological advancements, and we do, and that's fine. People need to realize that we have been living the way that we live in these like weird city societies and not one with nature and away from nature for 10,000 years. I like to emphasize that. And I know 10,000 years feels like a very long time, but science says that humans have been Homo sapiens, like what we are right now today, for at least 300,000 years. 300,000 years. So for 290,000 years, we were either egalitarian across the globe, mind you, this is across the globe. We were either egalitarian, which means that men and women held equal rank in the community. There was no higher or lower rank. It was who was more suited to do a job is the person who did that job, and your gender really did not matter at all. Or we were matriarchal, where the women in the village made the decisions. The women were the ones who passed down property rights. The women were the ones who carried the lineage, which I just like. I'm a very logical person, y'all. I am, and I know from a lot of the internet standpoint, you guys will think I am illogical, but when you do a lot of deep thinking, analyzing, researching, experiencing, processing, understanding, you too will start to see that actually the world outside is backwards, is upside down. The world is upside down. So whenever I say something and it sounds illogical to people, I'm just like, well, you live in the upside down. You literally live in a narcissistic world. Narcissism is the inversion of everything that is natural. Like, again, everyone, I do not talk about narcissism from narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, as a syndrome for a person. I talk about narcissism as a set of behaviors that can be attributed to anything, okay? So it can be attributed to a business. A business can be narcissistic in the way that it only cares about itself, and it doesn't matter if it hurts and harms others or other communities or other people or its employees or the environment, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as it gets what it wants, the business, the entity. It doesn't matter if it hurts and harms, the collective. That's narcissism. So that is a business being narcissistic. Our government, for example, is a narcissistic government. It does not care about the collective. It does not care about the population. It doesn't care about the majority of people who have to live in this country. It only cares about the interest of a few, the interest of the elite. Heavy quotes, because they're not elite, they're dumb. Cares about the interest of the billionaire class. That is narcissistic. I care about this very small amount of people over the collective. Like, that is what narcissism is. It is, I care about myself over others, which is like, if it's, I'll tag my video where I talked about the ratios of these narcissistic relationships, but you can be in a 0 to 1 narcissistic relationship, which is you are being a narcissist to yourself. There's no other person, but you are putting yourself beneath others. That is you being a narcissist to yourself. You are putting yourself below other people. It could be a one-on-one relationship where it's like one narcissistic abuser and one victim. It could be one narcissistic abuse like entity, like the United States government abusing 300 million of us all at once. It might not feel as oppressive or abusive as if we were being beat up by a husband or a boyfriend. But it is still abusive and oppressive, and we all feel exploited. We all feel hurt. We all feel extracted from. We all feel taken advantage of. We all feel like a vulnerable person who needs help but can't be helped because big, bad, scary government is exploiting us, right? Don't you feel that? Don't you feel that? We are in a narcissistic, abusive relationship with our government. So that's when I talk about narcissism as an intelligence, like it's like a virus almost. It's like a virus that it takes over the brain of whatever the host of it is. And then it starts using that host as a puppet, and it makes the host do what it wants. So it makes the host start gaslighting people. It makes the host start doing smear campaigns. Like, all of the behaviors of an individual narcissist, it can be applied to all of our social structures in the world. And that is why the world sucks. I can't explain that. If you want to know all about, if you want to go deep into all of them, I think it's going to end up over here. tag one of my Inside the Matrix videos, but this is literally when you open up the Matrix and, you know, you're in there and Neil's like, you want to take the blue pill, red pill, blue pill, whatever the pill is that lets you go inside the Matrix and see what it is. That is my channel. Welcome. You're in the Matrix now. Well, actually, I'm helping you get out of the Matrix. So anywho, so what are we talking about today, Bri? What about the patriarchy? So I want to help people understand the patriarchy as a narcissistic social hierarchy, as an intelligence that impacts all the people in society, right? And then how that impact differs amongst different populations. Let's say how it impacts men and how that causes men to be, and how it impacts women and how it causes women to be. And then the negative impacts of all of the negative impacts of being programmed by the patriarchy, by this narcissistic program, this narcissistic intelligence. If you are running the program of the patriarchy in your head, what that will look like. And if you're not running it, what it'll look like whenever someone else is, and how you can spot it. And here's the thing, you probably are. All of us, again, we're born into these. So at some point, we all have run at least one of these programs. And so it is our jobs to deconstruct the programs. You have to debug your computer, devirus your computer. You have to go in there and scoop out all the cancer, because really all these things are cancer. Narcissism is cancer. Narcissism is the cell is going to eat all the nutrients of the host of the body, even if it kills the host. But the parasite does not care. It just wants to consume. That's how capitalism is up there. Capitalism, the point of capitalism is grow at any cost, grow your business, grow your shares, grow your revenue, grow your money, grow. And then you're consuming resources from that community. You're consuming everything. You're making people consume. And then you're a big business. And now you are such a big business. You're such a big cancer that the body that you are consuming from is becoming weak. The host that you have is becoming weak. That is what capitalism has done. It has weakened us as a community, as a state, as a country. This is all countries who practice capitalism are going to go through this process of, as long as you keep growing and you never get to a point where you say, I want to sustain this level, you will keep growing and keep eating and consuming until there's nothing left. That is cancer. That is narcissism. It is all the same. So anyways, how does patriarchy? So hello, we've arrived at patriarchy. Because Bri, you keep saying that your husband was raised in a patriarchy. We're all raised in a patriarchy. So what is your point? So yes, we all are raised in patriarchy. We're all raised in all of these, and we have to deconstruct all of them. But so when any of these programs run, right, I've literally broken them all out for you. I've broken them out the hierarchies. I've broken out where each person falls in the hierarchy. When you are the ideal at the top of these hierarchies, you will never see the system. That is how the system works. That is how it is designed. That is how it's programmed. It is programmed to make a few people at the top seem like the ideal, make everyone else strive for that ideal, even though it's very likely that they'll never actually get to the ideal, because again, the system is created so that most people don't and only a few people do. But it's created to make people feel like you have the chance to get to the top of these hierarchies. That's what narcissists do, is they gaslight you and they make you feel like you have a chance of becoming their girlfriend or becoming their wife, or the way P. Diddy did, what's the girl's name? Not Aaliyah, not Charity, Chasey, Carrie, Cassie. That's what Diddy did to Cassie. Was told her, I'll make you a star, baby girl. The same thing Epstein did to all those girls. Like, oh, you want to be a model? I can make you a model. It's just like, this was the U.S. government says, oh, you want to be a millionaire? I'll make you a billionaire. It's like the narcissist or narcissistic entity makes you feel like you have a chance at doing these things. And it's like, technically you do. Like, is there a world is there a possibility? Is there a possible world? Is there a world where you become a model, you become an actress, you become a millionaire, you become, America's Next Top, whatever? Yes, but the fact that the narcissist knows that they are a gatekeeper because they've put themselves in place to be a gatekeeper, so that for the express purpose of being able to exploit people beneath them and abuse their power to access to this wanted resource, they literally put themselves in position to be able to exploit people. So all that to say, the male in the patriarchy will have the hardest time seeing the patriarchy, and because he'll have the hardest time seeing it, he will be the most susceptible to falling for it. That is it. That is like, when you are the ideal, you are the most susceptible to falling for it, because you do gain the most benefits. Although I like to tell everybody, it's like, there is no benefit to being with a narcissist. Period. Full stop. Point blank. You can get a few benefits during the time of the relationship, and when I say relationship, again, I mean that loosely. Like, I'm in a relationship with the United States government. Do I have a choice in that? Not kind of, sort of, not really. I'm making my way out as best and as fast as I can. But I want you to think of relationship as like, I don't want you to think of relationship in this instance as like two humans. Think of relationship as like the space in between any two things. It's like that is like literally that's the relationship. It's like whatever connects two things, that's the relationship. So that's what relationship is from here on out. And so there is no such thing as having benefits in any sort of narcissistic relationship. There are benefits that like it's like the benefits will never outweigh what is being taken from you. You may not realize what's being taken from you. You may not realize how much is being taken from you. You may not even feel it because it happens so slow and so gradually over time. When you like, no matter what, when you are in a relationship with a narcissist or narcissistic entity, when you add up all that you gave the narcissist or all that the narcissist took and extracted from you, you will always have paid off so much more than you will have gained when it comes to getting benefits from the narcissist. And so, all that to say, no one benefits from the patriarchy. So a lot of people in my last video were saying like, oh, you're complaining about the patriarchy when you're benefiting from it, because I was a stay-at-home mom for all of 3 months and was getting all my bills paid by my husband for all of 3 months of my life. I was benefiting from the patriarchy. And, one, I wasn't. I wasn't benefiting from the patriarchy. I was benefiting from a loving, kind, caring husband. Like that is a supportive husband. That's what I was benefiting from. Because my husband at one point in our marriage or in our relationship, not sure we were married yet, but maybe we were. Anyways, he had lost his job before as well within the course of our 3 years being together, 3+ years being together. And he was unemployed longer than I was. And I supported him longer than he supported me financially. But it's like, whenever that happened, do you call that the patriarchy? No, you call that a loving, supportive woman or wife supporting her partner, her husband. Like, so it's like the patriarchy wasn't supporting me. I wasn't benefiting from the patriarchy. I was benefiting from a good person, from the person who was my community at the time. So how does the patriarchy not benefit men? Because I know I will have my wonderful feminist friends on this YouTube and say, Bri, but men do benefit from the patriarchy. That's like saying white people don't benefit from white privilege and white narcissism / racism. And I to that will say the same thing, because again, whatever I say for one of these things, it always means all of them. It's like I always have this, like in my head, I always have my chart. And then I'll pick out a pillar or a column and I'll go deep in that one. But whatever I say for any one of them, it applies for absolutely all of them, just in its own respective way. So men don't benefit from the patriarchy overall the same way that white people don't benefit from racism overall. Like, it may seem like overall they're benefiting when you look at their position in society and compared to women or compared to black people or even like billionaires. They think that they are winning when it comes to and they are like, they've accumulated all of this artificial power, but it's not real. It's not real, and it's there just to really cover up their insecurities. Like, the entire world, I've been thinking about this recently, it's like the entire world is genuinely an expression of the mind of the insecure white man. It's just like everything that we have to deal with on this planet Earth is genuinely because some insecure white men said, I don't like the world being in a way that I can't control it because I'm insecure. And so I am going to craft a world that I can control so that I can feel my insecurities. And that's why we live in hell. We are literally living in the mind of the insecure white man. That's why we live in hell. Like that, literally, that's why we are inside the mind of a person who has hell inside their brain, and we're living in it. And so how does the patriarchy not help men? By that, it tells men that they are not allowed. First of all, it tells men that your only value comes from your ability to provide and protect. That in and of itself is problematic, because you have already stripped these men of their ability to see value in themselves in any other way other than what they can provide and protect. Like, it's just like, that's literally boiling their value down to their body. It is boiling down men's value to their physical capabilities. Like, are you physically and mentally capable to work in a way that I want you to work? Yes or no? Yes, you are valuable. No, you are not valuable. Does that not sound like ableism, which is one of my 6 narcissistic social hierarchies? You see how they're connecting? It is literally telling people that you are not worthy if you do not meet my physical and my mental capacity to work the way I want you to work. Now you're disabled. Now I'm pathologize you. Now you're worthless. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? You have no value to me. That's the narcissistic spell. That's the narcissistic programming. Like that's what every narcissist does ever, rather it be an entity, a state, a country, a person. They tell their victim, you are not worthy of anything. You are worthless unless you do what I say, unless you show up in the way that I tell you to show up. And then if I can validate your showing up the way I want you to show up, then you're worthy. Then you can hold your head up high. Then you can be proud of yourself. Isn't that disgusting? Isn't that nasty? That's what the patriarchy does to men. It literally tells them you're not valuable unless your body can work for me, unless your brain can work for me. So men grow up with the thought of like, okay, I am only good if I can work. I am only good if I can fight, if I can be physically domineering, and then if I can work. And so because those are the only 2 traits that you're allowed to have as a man, and then of course the patriarchy demonizes anything that is the feminine, which is anything that is creation, anything that is love, anything that is nurturing, anything that is like just existing, just being. The feminine is like it is the energy of being. It is the energy of being, it is I don't know how to explain that, but like the feminine energy is the energy of being, the masculine energy is the energy of doing. But they are 2, it is yin and yang. It is always yin and yang. All of everything and throughout all of nature is about balance and harmony. It is about working together to make some sort of sustainable ecosystem that is inside of every single one of us. Every single one of us has masculine and feminine energy. Every single one of us needs to be okay and secure with just being, just existing, without having to do anything, without having to execute, without having to prove our worth. We are all worthy just existing. And then we also all have that doing energy, that energy of like, okay, let me get something done. Okay, I've noodled on it, I've thought about it, but now it's time to execute. Now it's time to express. Now it's time to externalize whatever it is that I have created inside of me. So we all have the creation inside, internal energy that is our feminine. And then we all have our external doing energy that is the masculine. But men are not literally told from birth, you are not allowed to just exist. You are not allowed to feel worthy and valuable in your skin if you just live your life as a human being breathing. Like we're all told that because again, all these narcissistic social hierarchies are an expression of masculine energy. Narcissism is an expression of masculine energy, which is another reason why all men are more subject to like the narcissistic programming, because they have they're missing a part of their chromosome. It's like, y'all are like sitting here telling me, oh, I should want to have a man lead me. And I'm just like, how am I going to get led? One, by someone I created. These men are our sons. Quite literally. That's like me following my son. I raised him. I taught him everything he know. I taught him everything he know, but he didn't teach me everything I know. I know more than my child. Why would I lead my child? And I'm not to say that, an adult man is a child, but it's like, in general, women raise men in general. Like, I'm not to say, there's always exceptions to every rule, but I'm not talking about the exception. I'm talking about the general. In general, women raise children, including men. And so in general, women are raising men. So why would I be expected to like follow a man who was raised by a woman? Why wouldn't I just follow the woman? Like, doesn't that not make sense to anybody else but me? Does that not make sense? Because see, again, y'all going to say that I'm being backwards, but it's just like, that is logic if I've ever heard it. Why would I follow the student when I could follow the teacher? Sometimes the student can come up with something new or innovative or something, maybe look at it a way the teacher didn't look at it, but that is still just adding on to what the teacher already knew. You didn't come up with it yourself. You wouldn't have learned that without the teacher. And whatever you learned, I can still learn the same stuff and then come up with my own conclusions. Like, why would I want to learn from the student? That doesn't make sense to me. And it's like, And it's like they literally are missing some of their DNA. Like we have two X's and then they have an X and a Y. That Y is not like a different chromosome. It's the same chromosome as the X, but with a piece of it missing. Literally the same thing, but like a piece of it is cut off. It is like they are literally missing some of their DNA. And so for women to be the ones who are supposed to be submissive or in the passenger seat, or like have men drive our lives, it's like, why would I follow someone who's missing a part of their DNA? Y'all, I don't know. Women who feel like men are like the natural leaders, I'm just like, is that a conclusion you came up with on your own? Or is that something the Bible told you? Is that something that the Bible that was written by men who were in control and wanted to maintain control, so they took out any book that empowered? Like the same way that when the Bible was created, it literally took out passages that empowered women. White people did the exact same thing, where instead, when they were giving Bibles to Black people, they took out passages that empowered Black people to like want to be free. It's like the same narcissistic intelligence, the same programming is running, just in different facets. So the same thing is with religion. Is the same programming that it inverts the truth and tells everyone God is a man, God is an authority figure, God is hierarchical, God is on top, and all of us are below him, are beneath him, are valueless, aren't worth anything in comparison to God, right? This male God, when in reality, God is first of all, God, if you have to say anything, God is a masculine, feminine, and an entity. Like God is yin yang. God is like duality. God is the masculine and the feminine together all at once. That is what God is. But if you have to pick a gender, if you put a gun in my head and say, hey, Bri, you got to pick a gender for what you think God is, I'm just like, it's gotta be a female. Gotta be. God gave birth to the world. God is a create the God energy is creation energy. Like God created these trees outside. God created the rivers, the oceans, the fish. Like we all agree that everything in nature, right, was created by God, right? I mean, unless you're an atheist and you don't believe that the spirit world exists, in which case this is not the right channel, because I am anti-religion. I am not anti-spiritual. I'm not anti-spirituality. So if I had to say, God was anything, she would be a woman, because she gave birth to life. She gives birth to life. Like, and then, right, and this is another problem that I have, is like people are like, oh, patriarchy has always been there. And we all were raised in patriarchy. We were all raised in patriarchy, all of us that are alive today, but patriarchy has not always been there. Like, and I really want people to get that out of their brains. Like, patriarchy is relatively new.
Okay, before I start, if you want to go research the legitimacy of what I'm about to say, please do. There is a significant body of archaeological and anthropological evidence behind all of it. This video isn't a dissertation. It's a conversation starter, so let's start. Patriarchy is not natural. I want to say that again. Patriarchy is not the natural biological order of things. It is not inevitable. It is not hardwired into us. It started somewhere, and we actually know roughly when, and we know why. For the vast majority of human existence, hundreds of thousands of years, men did not know that they had a role in creating life. Think about what that means. The only visible, undeniable, observable truth of human creation was the woman. She bled, she didn't die, her body grew new humans. She was, by every observable measure, the origin of life. And men knew it. We know that they knew it because of what they did about it. Male initiation rituals from the Neolithic era involved men cutting themselves to simulate menstrual bleeding. They were trying to access what women had. In Norse mythology, Thor gains enlightenment by bathing in the menstrual blood of the primal matriarchs. In Greek mythology, the gods drank menstrual blood, called the supernatural red wine of Mother Hera, to sustain their power. The oldest calendar ever found is a bone marked with lunar cycles, tracking a woman's menstrual cycle. Women invented timekeeping by charting their own bodies. For thousands and thousands of years, this was the order of things. The feminine was sacred. The mother was the center. Creation was hers. Then, roughly 10,000 years ago, through the domestication of animals, through watching livestock breed, men made a connection. They understood for the first time that they had a role in creating life, and something shifted. Almost immediately in the archaeological record, you see it. Ownership, naming rights over children, control over women's bodies, patrilineal inheritance, the accumulation of land and wealth, male gods steadily replacing female ones, war as a tool of dominance. And here's the part that I really want you to sit with. Writing wasn't invented until around 3400 BC, by which point patriarchy was already fully in place, which means that virtually everything we call history, every text, every religious document, every law, every story was written inside the patriarchal era. The world that existed before it didn't get to write itself down. It was already gone. So this is what I'm saying. Patriarchy did not come from nature. It came from a thought born out of thousands of years of watching women create life and having no role in it, no equivalent power, no equivalent mystery. And when men finally found their small piece of that process, they didn't integrate it, they inflated it, and then they took over everything. That is not biology. That is great insecurity with a huge army. And we have been living inside of that story ever since. So long that most of us have never been invited to question it. Well, I'm inviting you to question it now.
It corresponds with the rise of religion, and it also corresponds with the oppression of women. And so that's another thing. I'm just like, so going back to me thinking about like monogamy and marriage, right? Before patriarchy, before religion, before the subjugation and oppression of women, women didn't have that many children. Before 10,000 years ago, because everyone thinks about like, oh, before we had modern medicine, before we had technology, before men ruled the world, everyone was like miserable and dying. First of all, that perspective is very European. From the European standpoint, if you look at 10,000 years ago, Europe was not like Europe was down bad. So most of history that people have learned has literally been learned through the perspective of the white man, of the European descendant man. Like all of history has been through that perspective. And so, yeah, through that perspective, 2,000 years ago, Europeans were dying. 2,000 years ago, there was a lot of disease. 10,000 years ago, things were not doing great. Everyone, like, the technology is a blessing to people in Europe descended places from 10,000 years ago from that perspective. But when you actually step outside of the European perspective and you actually look at indigenous populations everywhere in the world but Europe, people were fine. People were flourishing. There were egalitarian societies. Women and men hunted and gathered side by side. And because of that, which is what I was saying, women actually didn't have children very often. People were living long because, mind you, again, prior to 10,000 years ago. So we just go like, let's say 13,000 years ago, or even like 14,000 years ago. So 14,000 years ago, humans were exactly the same as we are today. Exactly. Like when it comes to our capacity to learn, our knowledge, like our gathering of knowledge, our gathering of intelligence, like we knew about the suns, the circles, the stars, like we knew a ton about everything that was the world and the universe, but we still lived with the universe. We still lived with nature. We didn't fear nature like that. Humans were, we were being mauled by bears every single day. That is the same way that we know how to not be mauled by a bear today is the same way we knew how to not be mauled by a bear 12,000 years ago. Like people don't think that's true, but we didn't just start living 10,000 years ago and then collecting data and now we know stuff. Like, no, we had been alive for 290,000 years prior to 10,000 years ago when the European people decided this land is mine and I'm going to take it over and I'm going to enslave everyone who's on the land so that they'll work for me, and then I'm going to spread from there, and then I'm going to use all of this money and power that I've accumulated to dominate and destroy everyone who doesn't want to live like I live. That just happened, and before that we were perfectly fine, and women didn't have many children because having having a bunch of young children as a woman, it would slow you down when you are hunting and gathering. It makes you much more vulnerable. So women would have a kid and they didn't live with a husband, so they weren't having sex all the time every day. Really, in some indigenous communities, it would just only have sex during essentially during ovulation time. Or just other stuff but it was women only had kids, and some of them didn't have kids at all. Just FYI, they lived their lives as virgins. And I'm just like, probably should have took that route. Everyone is raised out in patriarchy, but it impacts men in a very specific way, and it's because women, although we're raised in the patriarchy and we're raised to put men above us and we're raised to put men's feelings ahead of us and we're raised to serve men, it's like after a while of doing everything the social hierarchy, the pillar, the society, the narcissist, after you do every single thing that they've told you to do over and over and over again, and you continually are the one who is blamed for all of the problems that are happening, even though you know you're not doing anything wrong, you're doing your best, you're doing what you've been told to do, um, people will wake up. People eventually wake up. So women, we are more likely to realize this is bullshit the same way Black people are, much more quickly to realize that racism is bullshit, like that it exists. And that is bullshit because, again, the way that the white people who are in charge of the world are so freaking dumb, like they're so stupid. They're just like, because they have so much ego, so much hubris, so much like narcissism. It's literally narcissism. When you are the ideal of the narcissistic system, you will be more narcissistic and you will not know that you are in a system, and you will not know that you are not as good as you think you are because the system told you that you are great. And the system told you you're great because the system picked you ahead of time. The system picked you ahead of time as a white person, as a white. I always say this. Y'all think that 80 or 90% of all Fortune 500 CEOs are 6 foot something, blonde hair, blue eyed white men by accident? Y'all think that's an accident? Y'all think that's just a coincidence? No, the system picked them out ahead of time. And that's why every time they show up, the system is like, oh, you did great. Perfect. Come on. I pick you. And then when the Black person behind them, the woman behind them, the Muslim person behind them, the other people behind them who have way more qualifications, way more experience, way more knowledge, way more intelligence, they don't get picked because, whatever the system says is the reason of the day. And then this white man with blonde hair and who's 6 foot tall, 6 foot something, he gets to be the CEO of this Fortune 500 company. That's y'all. Like, y'all think that's an accident? Y'all think it's an accident that every president of the United States has been a white man, with the exception of Obama, but the fact that every single president has been a man? Y'all think it's an accident? No. Y'all you think that Black people being disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system is an accident? No, of course you like to blame that. You like to victim blame. You like to victim blame. You like to blame the victims for the outcomes that the system created and then exploited and then perpetuated. But, the victim it's the individual victim's problem, not the system. The system doesn't even exist. There is no system according to people. It's just one of my courses, which is a course that I really feel like everyone in the world should take, is statistics, probability, and statistics. It's just if everyone in the world took probability and statistics, you would be able to see the outcomes of the world and understand that these stats have been rigged. Once you learn how probability and statistics truly and actually work, how random selection actually works, if there is no external pressure creating a force that makes the numbers, that makes things happen, then everything would be evenly, equally, and randomly distributed. That's if I have a pile of dice in my hand and I roll them 1,000 times, depending on how many dice I have, I could have 1,000 different answers, and it'll likely be 1,000 different answers, or whatever amount of combinations that I can create. The likelihood of me creating all of them, goes up the more I do it, if that makes sense. It's the law of large numbers. If y'all have heard of that, it's just the more of a bigger sample you have, the more evenly distributed the sample will be, unless there is something that is skewing the numbers one way or another. And then that's when you have a non-even distribution. So if the fact that we have if 15% of the United States is Black, then that means 15% of the population of basically any occupation should be Black. It's it shouldn't be that 15% of the population is Black and 0.0001% of the population of lawyers is Black. 0.001% of the politicians are Black. 0.00 but and 85% of janitorial positions are Black, or 85% of Hispanic cleaning jobs are Hispanic. It's 14%, I don't know, 10% of the population is of Latin descent, but they're not represented out anywhere in the United States. The fact that all of the wealth concentration is one place, y'all, when you when you know how numbers are supposed to work, when you look across all of these statistics and you see all of these skewed outcomes that are skewed by race, that are skewed by education, that are skewed by income level, it's like you know that there are factors at play that are doing something that is causing the shift, that is causing like things to not shake out in a natural, fair, and even way. And those things are my 6 narcissistic social hierarchies of control. Those are the things that are at play. Like 9 times, like I don't want to give myself a perfect score, 10 out of 10, but I'm just like, I can't name, there's not a thing on this planet that I can name that isn't being impacted by one of these 6 things in this narcissistic way. And there's no problem you can point me to that I can't get to the root cause of it with and it's not one of these 6 narcissistic social hierarchies. Like, it's one of these things that are causing issues. 7, if you want to put animals up there, because we are narcissistic as humans to animals. We care about the human species more than we care about others. Neither here nor there. Okay. So when men show up in the patriarchy and the patriarchy has already picked them as the victor, men, when they get picked as the victor, they think they have more. It causes them to have more confidence because they think they're successful off of their own merit when in reality, they were picked before they even got there. It causes them to disconnect from their feelings because it says that you're only allowed to have, the only feeling that you're allowed to have is anger because that's the only feeling that is identified as masculine. And anger is a very actionary emotion. And again, the masculine energy it's a doing energy. It's an expressive energy. It's an externalized energy, and anger isn't a very easily externalized emotion. So, I get why they picked it. But it's unhealthy to make any human being compartmentalize and bring all of their emotions down just to the one and only allow them to express any emotion they have in one way. Very unhealthy. And over time, it causes people in general to disconnect from their emotions, and then they lose self-awareness. They lose that ability to discern what is upsetting them, what is causing them pain, what is causing them depression, what is causing them anxiety, what is causing them anger, what is causing them frustration, what is causing them sadness, depression. Like, all these emotions, people can't even express their own emotions these days because they have been so suppressed for so long, demonized for so long, weaponized for so long, victimized for so long. It's like, if you are a human with an emotion, God forbid, but if you're a man, if you got an emotion other than anger, you're gay. And God forbid you're gay in the patriarchy, because the patriarchy says you're supposed to love men, you're supposed to revere men, men are the authority figures, you're only supposed to look up to men, you're only supposed to listen to men, especially if you're a man. If you're a woman too, but if you're a man, you definitely better not be listening to no women. You only can listen to men. Revere men, like, love men, look to men, but don't have sex with them. But don't look too closely. Don't look so much where you actually get attracted. Be attracted to everything that is the man. Aspire to be everything that I tell you that is the man, but don't want to be romantic with them. Then you've gone too far. That is what the patriarchy does. And it does it on purpose, because once you go into love, once you go into expressing your emotions in a way other than anger, you go into the feminine. And once you go into the feminine, you become a balanced person. Once you connect with both your masculine and your feminine energy, your being and your doing, your resting and your activity, like, once you have those both in balance and alignment, and you're comfortable with that, you become a very hard to control person. And so they want men to look up to men as authority figures, but they don't want men to fall in love with one another, because if they one, if they allow themselves to have such a vulnerable emotion, it'll transform them in a way that makes them less controllable. And then 2, if homosexuality became a societally accepted thing, which it had been, it's harder to control you. It's harder the narcissists and narcissistic systems and entities, they need something to hold over your head. Like, they need a lever of control. And so if homosexuality was widely accepted and men could just fall in love with men, and it wouldn't like bring down their social standing or their worthiness or their validity as a man, then the patriarchy would crumble. The whole patriarchy would crumble. If men could fall in love with each other the way that they want to, the way that these grinder apps be crashing at these RNC conventions, which is like, Is that not crazy? It's like the most, again, where the most where the most patriarchy is in the Republican Party, where because they from a very young age they teach these Republican conservative men to love men, to revere men, to look up to men, to like be in awe of men. But then they tell them you're not allowed to be attracted to them. So it's just like they are literally creating an environment of homosexuality by like they're showing naked Jesus. I'm not sure if that's like a turn on to anybody, whatever floats their boats, but it is they show all these men in all of these like uniforms or these like these places of authority, and then they tell them love these men, look up to these men, listen to these men, follow these men, but don't love them, but don't fall in love with them. Like respect them, but don't fall in love with them. Don't want to have sex with these people. And if you do, you have to do it in secret. And then it becomes like a taboo. And then it becomes like two people who do crime together, they're going to be locked in. It's like a trauma bond. It's like a trauma bond. It's essentially a trauma bond. It's like when you do secrets together, you are going to, I mean, whenever it comes to a person who is running the narcissistic program, it's all about hierarchy at the end of the day. So they're always going to put themselves above anyone else. So if they get caught doing a crime, they will certainly turn over their friend. But before they get caught doing any sort of crime and are held accountable in any sort of way, they're going to run together and be in lockstep. And that's how all these secret societies are happening. If y'all haven't listened to, what is his name? Professor Jong. Yeah, a lot of people on here, you guys, that's not a lot. There have been several people who question my experience, my intellect, my authority. They question my authority. They're like, who are you? How are you an authority figure to be able to speak on the things that you're speaking on? And I'm always like, hey, don't listen to me. If you listen to what I'm saying and it doesn't resonate, and you listen to what I'm saying and you feel like, this is not true, then okay, that's fine. Walk away and call me a dummy and never come back. That is totally fine with me. I'm not here to force you to do anything. I'm not here to like make you think a certain way. I am here to reveal patterns that I have picked up and seen in my experience and my research and my knowledge. And if you feel like you haven't seen that pattern, okay. And if you feel like, I have seen that pattern, but I never thought about it, I'm here to help. Or, that's what I'm here. I'm just here to give information that I have received in the way that I have received it, processed it. I put it together and now I'm giving it back to you based on, everything that I've done in my life. But yeah, take it or leave it is all I've got to say about that. Take it or leave it. Anywho's, so with this, yeah. All right. And so how does that show up? How does that lack of value of oneself, that lack of safety in one's like just being, that lack of feeling secure by sort of secure even when you're not providing, even when you're not protecting, even when you're not like physically strong or like financially whatever, like wealthy. How does that show up in a man raised under the patriarchy? If they have been sufficiently indoctrinated, which most men have, and they believe these things, then they adopt then they have the bug, they have the program, they have the virus, they have the narcissistic virus, and they start doing the narcissistic things. It's just like, I don't know how, like, I'm doing a poor job of explaining it, but I don't know how to explain it better than that. It's like if he believes that he can't do any other emotion other than anger, other than anger, then all of his emotions are going to show up as anger. And then a man who's all of his emotions show up as anger. One, they're going to be dangerous because anger is a dangerous emotion. It's a very hot emotion. It's a very uncontrollable emotion if you're not an emotionally stable person. Which people who lean on anger is their main and only emotion are emotionally unstable because they don't have a balance of expressing other emotions. So it's like, is that so? So here's the thing. I guess people don't know. I don't think people have a good vision of what a man not raised under the patriarchy would look like. And I would say turn to your nearest trans woman or queer man and talk to them, have a conversation. And that's not to say those are not men raised under the patriarchy, but again, when you have a deep truth about yourself that you literally cannot fight, the social system, the programming doesn't work on you. The programming does not work. It can't work on you because you know your truth. When you know your truth, you can't, no one can tell you who you are because you know who you are. So what does a world of people that are not raised under the patriarchy? It looks like a world of queer people. If the world was not patriarchal, if the world did not condemn humans who who enjoyed same-sex activities. Oh, again, once you've deconstructed all of it, it's just like, y'all don't understand how crazy that is. It's just like, it's just so, it's like, so okay, so what does it look like? It's like, it's essentially like, it's a world where men are allowed to be queer without judgment, without like fetishization, without like all those men who are in the closet at the Republican place. They were like, a closet wouldn't exist. Like everyone would be able to show up as in whatever proportion of masculine and feminine energy is inside of them, however, like whatever that looks like every single one of us is made up of a very unique combination of elements, and that includes our gender programming. Like we like the narcissist loves to, because again, the narcissism is a external energy. It is an energy of like, I only believe what I can see. I only like value things that are external, things I can see, things I can feel, things I can touch. It only recognizes gender and gender expression by our physical body parts. It was just so silly. But like, again, from people who only look at the world from the external, from the male perspective, from the masculine, the world has been built on the masculine perspective. It doesn't seem like a crazy idea. It doesn't seem like a crazy idea to be like, oh yeah, there are men and there are women. And in order to, come together and make a baby, it has to be a man and a woman. And so that is the biologically natural way that all people should be. I understand the train of logic from an external point of view, but when you take into consideration the internal point of view, like the fact that everyone has a different inside, like yeah, our outsides are quite similar, but the insides of us, name two people who have the same DNA. I'll wait. Someone's going to say identical twins. That's fine, but they have different fingerprints. Name two people who have the same fingerprints. I'll wait. Exactly. Well, fingerprints are external. Yeah, so name two people with the same DNA. I know someone's going to say identical twins. We're not talking about them right now. They are the exception to the rule. I'm talking about in general. In general, everyone has their own different DNA, and that is internal. And so internal, inside of all of us, we all have different personalities. Like, I just don't understand how everyone in this world we know has different DNA, has different personalities, has different experiences, has different upbringings, has different, like, we even have different taste in food. Like, I hate cucumbers, I love pickles, but I know people who feel like turning a cucumber into a pickle is the biggest sin in the world. And I'm just like, cucumbers are only born to become pickles in my mind. But it's just like, that's just like, it's just how everyone is different. So to sit here and say that every single man who is born has to be attracted to only women romantically and sexually, and every single woman that is born has to be attracted to only men romantically and sexually, and there can literally never ever 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 be anything in between. And if there is something in between, then it's blasphemy, it's bigotry, it's evil, it's demonic. I don't understand the logic. I don't understand the logic. How is that logical? Was that logical? How is that logical? That doesn't make any sense. Does that make sense to you? Because it don't make sense to me. So a world where patriarchy didn't exist would be a world where everyone was queer. Everyone was queer. Everyone was queer. Like, and the court, and the exception, right? Because whenever I look at anything, I always look at everything in the world exists on a spectrum. Don't matter what it is. If you name a thing, it'll be on a spectrum. I'm just like, this color on the back of my wall is like a dark green, but this green can range from anywhere from the super lightest green to the darkest of green. My hair ranges from the straightest of straights to the kinkiest of coiliest skin, the lightest of albino to the deepest of darks. Like, trees can be they can be thin trees, they can be thick trees. Like, it can be tall trees, it can be short trees. Like, everything exists on a spectrum. And then within those spectrums, and again, if you took statistical probability, you would be with me. There's always a distribution curve that looks like this, right? And the distribution curve is like, this is like, most things will fall in the middle, right? Most things will fall in the middle, but then on the ends, the extremes are on the ends. And so a small amount of people will fall in the extremes, and most people end up here. And so most people would end up in some sort of like, because the ends would be completely straight, like I'm a man and I only like women, and I'm a woman and I only like men. Those would be like those would be the extremes, and then literally everyone else would end up in the middle. Like I'm a man and I only like sex with women, but I find men attractive. Could be, somewhere towards this end where they're like mostly straight, but like they think they're good looking. Or, and same thing over here. It's like I'm a woman and I think all women look beautiful, but I would never have sex with one. Or like, oh, I would have sex with one, but I wouldn't have a romantic relationship with one. That's another, variation of gender expression or sexuality expression. So it's like men would be able to admit that they have some sort of physical or emotional or romantic attraction to other men in the same way that women would be able to, like, not to say, I still feel like I feel like being a lesbian is still like, it's like not as taboo, I think, as being, I don't even know if I want to call it taboo. So I feel like people don't take lesbians seriously. It's like, oh, two women, they're just like, they're together because they couldn't find a man. And so they chose each other. I feel like people, especially like straight people, I feel like they see like lesbians as people who couldn't get a man. And like, it's just like, sorry, this is about to send me on a whole nother tangent on just like the centering of relationships in general. Someone was reviewing my video of me divorcing my perfect husband, and she was saying that I am not relationship material was her the way she phrased it. And it was like, no, I am wonderful relationship material. I'm like, I'm smart, I'm funny, I am considerate, I'm kind, I'm empathetic, I'm thoughtful, just all the great things that you would want in a partner. And I was a wonderful partner. I was a fantastic partner, but I just didn't want to be a partner anymore. And so I walked away from being a partner. That doesn't mean I'm not a relationship material. It just means I don't want a relationship. I was like, that's like saying a man saying, oh yeah, she's not my type, I don't want to be with her. And the whole time he asked her already and she said no. And so now it's like, oh, she's not my type. That's what I feel like she was saying. She's like, oh, she's not relationship material. And it's like, no, I am. I just don't want to be. I just don't want to be in a relationship. I don't want to be material to a relationship. Sure, if you want to put it that way, I'm not relationship material, but that's like saying, a, a a golden box is not silver. It's like, yeah, it's not gold material. Or like, yeah, it's not like, right, it's not. Okay, are we, what other facts are we just listing out today? Anywho's. And so that's what it looks like for a man to show up and be influenced by the patriarchy. It's really just when they don't value and love themselves, but yet they still find themselves more important than everyone else. That's the narcissism. And then, yeah, the woman who was also reviewing my last video and was saying that I'm not relationship material. She also said that she felt this underlying hatred of men come out of me. And I didn't know that I gave that, but I do. I do have a general overall disinterest in men as a people. I don't want to, yeah, no. But she said like a disdain. And I will say I have an overall disdain for men. I will say that. And so I know people are going to, like call me bitter or I don't know, whatever people want to call people these days. But it is like, I don't understand. It's the same. And again, because for one of these things, it's all of these things. But it's the same thing. It's like whenever I say I don't like white people, it's like all the people are like, oh, but not all white people. And so same thing when I say I don't like men, it's like, oh, but not all men. But it's like, but it's most of them. It is the vast majority. It's different if it was like, 50-50 or like 51%, but like it is like 90% of men are raised under the patriarchy, don't know that they're raised under the patriarchy, don't know that they think patriarchally, and thus are enacting harm and enacting narcissism. And then the same way that white people, they don't know. I don't know. I feel like men and white people both know that they're being misogynistic and racist. They both know that they're being narcissistic in the way that they're caring about themselves and not caring about others, that they're talking down on others, that they're talking down on, like that they're subjugating and putting women and black people on a lower ranking. So I do have a general overall discontentment with the male of the human species. And my thing is the same way that you can look around and have a general discontentment with white people, you can have a general discontentment with men. Men have been ruling the planet for about 10,000 years now, as we've discussed. And it has gone to shit. It has, I know, again, technology has advanced, but human empathy has decreased. Human love has decreased. Human control has increased. Human freedom has decreased. Human self-sufficiency has decreased. They've made it so that we are unable to sustain our own lives without a job or the government. and they've done that on purpose. I can tell you many a story about corporations going in and chopping down natural fruit bearing trees in order to starve the populations of people who were using those trees for supplementing their income. And they did that so that they could further enslave and make the workers dependent on the corporations. So they have intentionally taken away our ability to get food and water and shelter for ourselves so that we would be more dependent on them. Like that has been a gradual but intentional process that no one has noticed because they have been like, "Oh no, well sure, I don't know how to plant my own things anymore, but I've got a cell phone." And like we're like, "Oh sure, I don't know how to identify edible plants in the wild, but I got a job and I can buy food at the grocery store." And it's like we've slowly traded away our freedom for convenience. And yeah, so people feel like patriarchy has been a good thing because it's brought us technology. And it's just like, I would prefer to have my own sovereignty, my own self-sufficiency. I am currently like learning how to forage for myself, learning how to identify edible plants, learning how to just be able to sustain myself if because I don't have a job and I plan to never go back to corporate America again. If I can help it, unless unless I am really down bad and I literally am in like a desert and I can't and there are no cactuses for me to eat, then I will get another corporate job. Like that is what it'll take for me to get another corporate. And first of all, the corporate jobs they're gonna be gone in 5 years anyway. So it's like the corporate jobs are gonna be gone in 5 years anyway. And so what are y'all doing? Y'all are everyone's sitting around like just like hoping things get better, hoping things change, hoping someone shows up to save us. I don't know. Like the government has you exactly where they want you to be, scared and dependent, helpless and dependent. But you got your cell phone, but you got TikTok, but you got this YouTube, and that's nice. And I appreciate you for being here. But it's like, imagine if you could go outside right now and pick enough fruits and vegetables to make yourself and your family dinner, a filling dinner. Imagine. And you didn't have to pay nobody. Just imagine. Wouldn't that be nice? That's what we had when we lived in an egalitarian world. That's what we had when we lived in a matriarchal world. We had access. We had access to the things that we needed access to. And so it wasn't a thought to we didn't have technology the way that we have technology now because we didn't have this need for constant growth of efficiency. Like the reason why we have created, the industrial revolution, like the agricultural revolution, which is the thing that started all of the patriarchy in the first place, which happened 10,000 years ago in what we now know is like the Middle East, kind of the Mediterranean area, and that's also near Europe. So the Europe and the Arabs and y'all them too. So we didn't have technology. So the agricultural revolution happened 10,000 years ago where we were forced by a select few people to forego foraging and forego like living off the land. And it was replaced / taken over / dominated by people who grew their own food. And so men have been ruling the world for about 10,000 years now. And for about 10,000 years now, the world sucked. Like even the concept of religion was created because humans felt like the world sucked and they needed a savior. But that feeling of the world sucks and something is wrong with humans and all these things that didn't come about until men were in charge. Men began enslaving people. Like once the day that humans were no longer able to go outside and pick their own fruit off of trees was the day that humans began to feel like something is wrong with us. That is when that happened. Whenever we lost our freedom to live on our own, like in a self-sufficient way, then we started having all this, oh, I don't like labor. Oh, I don't like I don't like my life. Oh, something is wrong with humans. Oh, humans are sinful. Oh, humans suck. And like all of this self-hatred of the human species did not show up until humans were enslaved until humans started enslaving one another and still humans started saying, no, you cannot have access to this tree of fruit and life until you go through me. And you have to go through me by doing what I say. That's like that. I will take away your access to food until you do what I say. Like that has never happened anywhere. That has never happened anywhere in the animal kingdom. There is no it's so evil and so sinister and so nasty. There's no I'm trying to think of like an animal who like locks up another animal's food and makes them work for them. If that makes sense. Like I'm just like I just cannot think. I'm like, let me look. Let me Google it. Okay. So I was like, I don't think there are any other animal species that block and impede access to food from others within their own species, as a way to exert power and control and is a way to control people within their own species when there is no need. And so there were a couple of examples that came up. Chimpanzees was the first one, and they are our closest relatives, and they operate very much like humans, where this is what ChatGPT says. Chimpanzees are probably the most prominent example of using food for political gain. Alpha males and high ranking coalitions often guard high value food sources like a successful monkey hunt or a rare fruit tree. By controlling the supply, a dominant male may physically block others from a carcass. He will then selectively share small portions of food with allies to solidify their loyalty or with females to secure mating opportunities. Those who challenge the male or fail to provide grooming services are systematically denied access, effectively using hunger as a tool for behavioral compliance, which is what our government does to us. But my thing is although that is true within the chimpanzee world, and there was a couple, I think, like they said, naked mole rats do the same thing, but it's like it's the woman who impedes access to food, so that and here's the thing. I have two problems with this. One is so even though these chimpanzees and these other animals are impeding access to food, like it's impeding access to that food, not to all food everywhere. If these chimpanzees, this big chimpanzee had the big best fruit tree and the other chimpanzees wanted to get some of that fruit, they could fight them for it, or they could go find another fruit tree. Like that alpha chimpanzee who was blocking them from getting the fruit tree that he's like, this is my territory. He cannot physically leave that tree and stop them from getting other trees. He cannot say, you know what, this entire forest is mine and you have to go find another forest. That is the difference in what animals do. It's like animals literally will impede people from getting what they have at that moment, and that's it. Humans, specifically human males, like stop access from other people getting what they have now and stop access from them getting anything ever in the future. Like that is the evil. That is the narcissism. That is the unique evilness of the male human. They created entire governments so that they could say, oh, this land, mine, go away. And you go away. Okay, I'll find some land here. No, that land's mine too. Go away. Okay, actually, everything is mine, including you. You can't go away. Actually, now you work for me. Now you're my slave. Like, no one does that except humans. No one. And it's like, we are animals. We are animals. We have only been talking and walking. Well, we've been walking the whole time, but we've been talking like this and writing and computing, like all this stuff that we've been doing, all very new. But who we are on the inside, the animals that we are who want to be able to go outside and have access to fresh food and water and shelter, like that's all of us now and forevermore. And so now and forevermore, no one is ever going to like being controlled. No one's ever going to like being enslaved. No one's ever going to like work. That doesn't mean you are a dummy or like you're broken or that something's wrong with you or like you have a disease. It means that you are living in a world that is not created for humans to live in. You're living in a world created by narcissists to control all other humans. Like that is the world we live in. That's why most people are uncomfortable and are upset and are depressed and are anxious and don't like it here, while you have a few select people at the top who are like, what are you complaining about? It's great. What's the problem? You're lazy. You're complaining. Nobody wants to work these days. No one has ever wanted to work any day. Like work was never like we didn't even have jobs 10,000 years ago. Our job was to get up and find food to eat. That's all I want my job to be now today. I just want my job to be get up, get something to eat, and then create. Like that's what they did all day. They got up, they found food, they drew, they expressed themselves through paintings, almost cave paintings. They wrote things down, eventually, and they ate and they had sex. And that was their lives, and that's what literally every other animal in the world does, is they wake up, they find food, they have sex, they do something fun, and then they go to sleep and they do it all again. They enjoy their lives. And so if you don't enjoy your life, nothing is wrong with you. You are just living in a world that was not built for the enjoyment of humans. It was built for the control of humans. So that was point 1. Um of why I look at these animals and I still think they're better than humans. And then 2 is I don't even like half the research I read. Again, like once you really understand that every piece of knowledge that we have been fed in the 21st century, and really in the last, I would give us the last 3 centuries, really last 4 if I'm being honest. Yeah, probably everything that's been put out in the last 4 centuries, last 400 years has been information through the perspective of the narcissistic white male. And so I'm like, I even look at these studies like about like the lions was one I was just I've always thought the way that they described the lions was just like side-eyed and weird, because they always describe the male lion as the king of the pack or the king of the jungle or like the alpha male, because they would fight any male lion that's there, and then, if there are cubs, they would kill off the cubs, and then only then would the women, the female lions want to, mate if they don't have any kids, and so then they would mate with this lion, get pregnant, and have his children, because he, defeated the lion that was their previous, house dad essentially. But I've always looked at that and I was always just like, the women, we all know, like, we know that the female lions do most of the hunting. We know that they do the child rearing. We know that they do a lot of the protecting. They actually fight off plenty of male lions on their own. So when it was just like, I was reading, I was just like, it just never sat right with me that like they said the male was like the head of this lion pack. And then I was recently researching it, and I said, are male lions really in charge of the pack? Or has the bias of male researchers just made it so that they interpreted their observations as that way, when reality, the female lions are truly the decision makers? So Chat GTT, Gemini, Claude, Grok. I don't do Grok. I don't do Claude. All right, Gemini says, you've hit on a fascinating shift on how we understood animal behavior. For a long time, the king of the jungle narrative dominated, largely because early research was often filtered through a lens that prioritized individual dominance and physical defense, traits associated with males and male lions in this case. But however, modern ethology, or study of animals behavior, has revealed that while male lions are the enforcers, the lionesses are the true architects and decision makers of the pride. Unlike males, who are often transient and stay with the pride for only a few years before being ousted by a rival, the females are permanent residents of the pride. A pride is essentially a multi-generational family of related females, grandmothers, mothers, sisters, and daughters. The territory, females decide where the pride lives, and they usually inherit the territory from their mothers and defend its boundaries for life. There is group membership. The females often decide which males they will allow to stay. While a male might win a pride through a fight, the females can and do make life difficult for a male if they don't approve of him being there, sometimes even banding together to drive that male away. They have collective decision making. They decide when it's time to hunt, which prey to target, and how to coordinate the attack. And when the pride moves from one watering hole to another, it's typically led by a female who initiates the walk, and the rest of the pride, including the males, follow her lead. They also manage the cub rearing nursery system, deciding where to hide the cubs and when to move them to keep them safe from predators. The male is more so a contractor. A contractor is a more accurate view for the male lion, not a king, but as a highly specialized security guard or border control. His primary job is to protect the pride's territory from other wandering males who might try to kill the cubs to start their own lineage. And they work as the muscle. While females do the bulk of the hunting, males are often called in as heavy hitters to take down exceptionally large prey like buffalo or giraffes that require sheer brute force. And so it also went on to say, your hunch about researcher bias is well supported by the history of science. Early 20th century researchers often focused on competition and hierarchy, which naturally drew their attention to the flashy, violent fights between males. And because males had larger manes, males are larger and have manes, they were easier to track and identify from a distance. The harem model, or one male owning many females was a popular Victorian era projection that ignored the fact that females are the ones who stay, hunt, and maintain the social fabric. In reality, if you remove the males from a pride, the female could, and sometimes do, survive on their own as a matrifocal unit. But if you remove the females, the males would have no social structure to return to and would lead solitary nomadic lives. So that is how I look at basically everything. Like we have these stories and these perspectives that all came from the narcissistic white male perspective. So he lit like these white men literally sat and stared at lions all day and saw all the women lions all staying together, nurturing their young, all doing all this stuff. Like they are literally holding together the entire society. And these white men see two men lions fighting. And then one wins and one gets to stay with the group and one leaves. And so they're just like, oh, that man owns all of those women. That male lion is the king of the jungle. Like they did that. They did that so often. When I look at when I look at this patriarchal narrative, I was reading Black AF History by Michael Harriet. I'm not sure, but that book, and he was talking about how white people came to Africa and they saw men dressed in what they considered women's garbs or dresses, and they were like, oh, these men are, they're acting like women, they're dressing like women, these men have something wrong. And it's like it's the equivalent of us going to Scotland and saying like, oh, these men are wearing skirts. It's like, no, that's just how their men dress. They have kilts, they have a different way, like in Africa they have you know I don't know what they're called, but they're colorful, and I feel like in a lot of maybe Middle Eastern, but it's like basically like head to toe a dress, but it's for men. But it's like, but it's like a robe kind of like but well, you could call it a dress, but from the white man perspective, they see these men dressed in these clothing that they're not familiar with, doing these things that they aren't like used to seeing men do, or like working with women. They see all these things, and in their mind, these men are gay, wearing dresses, and which some of them were gay, some of them were gay. Like again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like humans. There are gay men, there are gay women, like there are straight people, there are not straight people, there are people who are everything in between. Like they came into a society of humans living in a natural human way, and because it was not their patriarchal, strange, evil way, they wrote it down in their books that these people are awful, evil people, and they live upside down, and when their women are in charge, and their men are wearing dresses. Like that's what the white men saw. That's what they wrote down, and then they spread that story across the world. So everyone like reads that story. It's like, what? That's crazy. It's like everything that we know that came from the white man's mind. It is like, if you look at it and you don't question it, you're doing yourself a disservice, because I literally observed lions with my own eyes, and then I came up with a very different conclusion than all of the things I ever read about lions based on what white men saw with their own eyes, and then they came to a conclusion. Like we looked at the same stuff and came to very different conclusions, but one is pervasive throughout the world, and is upheld as this correct and this proper, and this is the authority, and this is the one you should listen to, even though it literally doesn't make sense to what you're seeing right before your eyes. Question everything, y'all. That's why I hate men and white people. It's because, and CEOs and billionaires and pastors and priests, anyone at the top of any of my 6 narcissistic social hierarchies, I probably hate you. If I'm being honest. Because you're spreading more harm than you are good. You think it's because you're doing harm, and you don't think you're doing harm, and you refuse to do any introspection to check with yourself to see if you're actually doing harm. You would rather just deny that you're doing harm, not do the work, not face anything that's happening, and live in your happy, comfortable bubble and pretend you're a good person, and live forever at the end. And that's nice, but you can't force me to like you um when you won't do the work to help humanity. So as long as that's the case, if you are a man and you are patriarchal, you feel like you're above women, you don't like gay people, you feel like you need to be a provider and protector and not a good person who's in touch with their emotions, you can go somewhere where the sun don't shine. You're a white person, and you also refuse to deconstruct every single thing that you've ever learned from the viewpoint of the white narcissistic man, and you just feel like black people across the globe, not even, not just Africa, not just in America, not in just the Caribbeans, across the diaspora of all Black people everywhere that are suffering, you feel like that's just a coincidence? You can go to hell. All my pastors and my priests and my Christians, if you're here, and I always like, religion is like one of the most harmful narcissistic social hierarchies because of the cage it puts people's brains in, and then it literally tells them you're not allowed to think outside of this box, and if you do, then you're a bad person, then you're a sinner, then you're evil, then you're not worthy, then you're not obedient, then you're going to go to hell. It is one of the most harmful narcissistic social hierarchies, but I shy away from talking about it because it's so powerful, and it has such a hold on so many people's brains. I like steer away from it. But pastors and priests and my very devout Christians, I hate you too, if I'm being honest. I know you don't, again, all of you, I know you don't mean any harm, but the way that you live your life, the fact that you have never questioned it, because it's like, here's the thing, if you live your life like in line with these narcissistic social hierarchies, you're guilty. Like, I don't know how, like, it's like if you've never sat and took the time to think about these things, and really reflect on them. I'm just because in my mind, once you sit down and really give these things some deep thought and allow yourself to question everything and not like block yourself off based on your own internal stuff. Like Christians will like literally not even think about what are other religions I could practice, or like they will not even think about like what if this wasn't true. Like they literally cannot bring themselves to doubt it, because the moment you bring yourself to doubt it, like the foundation of it begins to shake. That's how unstable it is to begin with. But and so because you're not like, and white people too, it's like I feel like white people, whenever you're told this is how Black people are, this is who they are, you're showed all this propaganda, all this music, all these music videos, all these movies depicting us in all these terrible ways, and then you'll meet a Black person or two, and maybe they fit the stereotype, maybe they don't, but to white people, it's just like they never question it. They're just like, this is what it is. If you don't question anything, you are being willfully ignorant in my eyes. And if you are willfully ignorant, I can't stand you. I hate you, and I think you're a terrible person. So yeah, this was a terribly all over the place episode. I will give you my goal, and you let me know if I accomplished my goal, and I feel like I didn't, but here was my goal. My goal for this video is to make people understand how patriarchy impacts thoughts, connections to feelings, to one's own feelings, how it promotes hierarchy and external validation, all of this over and money over people. So that was the episode. Sorry. I hope you learned something. So I guess I'll give an update. I am mostly all unpacked in my new house here in a southern state in the United States. I'm like deleting the GoFundMe because I really feel like it I really feel like it didn't hit the way I thought it, like not hit, but like I don't know. I feel like a GoFundMe, people use GoFundMe for needs, and I respect that, understand that, it's really great for medical bills or a funeral, or something happened, an unexpected tragedy and people need help. And so I feel like by me putting up the GoFundMe, I don't know, people interpreted me doing that as saying that I was a person who suffered some unpredictable tragedy and now I need help. And I got my shot for my trip to Ghana, you guys. So, I'll be in Ghana in a couple of weeks. And so I'm just like, so again, I was a stay-at-home mom for 3 months, but prior to that, I was in corporate America for 10 years. Yeah, I was in healthcare as a business. Like I know business, I know finances. Yeah. So do I have enough money to relocate out the country as of yet? No, not comfortably. But do I have enough to live? Do I have income? Like I have things that I'm doing that, I am not living on the street, and I am not starving. I don't want people, I put the GoFundMe up. It's like, in my mind, it was like, tips are appreciated. In my mind, it was like, if you want to help support my dream and my vision, you are welcome to do so. But it was never depending, like, I left my husband and all of my financial stability in order to help have people on the internet pay my way in life. I don't know. It's weird. And so I'm going to go back to my Cash App because I think that has more of a feeling of tips are welcome, but not required, and that's the vibe I want. The vibe I want are tips are welcome, but not required. I don't want people to feel like I'm, like, desperate or because your girl is never desperate. And I also don't want people I dislike the sentiment that, "Oh, she left her husband to to beg for money on the internet." I just don't like that because I have a lot of pride, I would say. Do I have a lot of pride? I don't know. I'm a humble person. So, okay, if I nah, I'm a prideful person because I was just like, if I truly was, like, about to die, would I pull out my cup and I would. Would I? I just don't think so. I just feel like I'm so capable. I feel like I'm so capable of figuring out a way of no way. Like, again, y'all, I was a teen parent. I it's just why I have this book out today, Student Parent. The Fight for Families, The Cost of Poverty, and the Power of College, written by Nicole Lynn Lewis, founder and CEO of Generation Hope, one of my favorite nonprofits who support teen parents who want to go to college. As someone who was a teen parent who went to and graduated college, yeah, just wanted to say shout out to Nicole for writing books about that experience. So, yeah, I was poor in college, I was homeless in college, I was a teen parent in college. So I'm a very savvy gal. I can make money. I know how to make money. I will always figure out a way. Even when everyone else tells me there's no way, I will always figure out a way. So, yeah, if you want to support, feel free to send money to my Cash App. Tips are welcome, but not required. If you feel like you've learned anything from my content ever and you like, if you want to support, that's one way you can do it. Another way is you can buy my Free to ADHD hoodie from free2adhd.com, which is I am sunsetting that website. I'm sunsetting my product line. Again, if you are new here, I used to do ADHD content specifically over on Instagram, but I have deactivated that account. But I have all these hoodies that I bought whenever I was very ambitious and I bought all this merchandise. And but now that I've moved, I have no space to store it. And so lucky for you guys, if you care, I am giving them away for, I'm gonna just say a dollar plus shipping. I have to get them out of this house or else I have to start paying storage, at a storage place. And then at that point, it's like, not only are you not selling them, but you're paying to keep them. And don't want to do that. So, if you want a $1 extra cozy, extra amazing hoodie and you want to save the environment from all this merchandise going in the trash, because I'm like, I mean, maybe I can donate it, but it's all very specific. So yeah, I'm gonna put it on my website, which I'm not sure how much longer it will be up. So really, just get it while the going is good. I will put these hoodies up for $1 plus whatever it charges you for shipping and handling, which I think is usually like, I don't know. I mean, it depends on where you're coming from, but it can range anywhere from like $6 to like $20, I think, depending on where you are. But the hoodie itself, y'all, what a wonderful quality. It is a quality hoodie and it supports neurodivergence. So if you would like your $1 hoodie, please use the code. Let's use the code the collective. I love that because we need to start doing stuff with the collective in mind. And the collective is just like literally the majority of humans. We think we have so much separating us when it's like we have so much more in common. We are all people who want clean water, food, healthy food, safety, safe shelter, and community with our families and our loved ones. Like all humans really want the same thing. It just kind of shows up a little bit differently. But yeah, we could all have what we want if we work together as the collective instead of as individuals trying to, be crabs in a barrel and get on top of the other person. That's what the narcissistic social hierarchies want. That's what these entities want. That's what the powers that be want. They want us to keep fighting one another and instead of coming together as the collective, because together we are stronger. So that is all for today. Thank you for coming. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.